that this meeting is being recorded. Perfect. And we will send this out to all of you afterwards as well. So if there's something that you missed as I'm speaking, or we or in the process you want to review it again, this is going to be, again, this is recorded and we will send it to all of you to view. So even if your friends aren't here, they will still get the same information. Just to kick it off to start with, if you haven't met me before, I'm Zach. I work on our product team here. I am the senior implementation analyst, and that's just a fancy name to say I help bring the new tools that we create to all of you guys as sort of directors, as well as all the way down to the membership level, right? And so we will be assisting you guys with this process of rolling out BNI Plus, which is what we'll be talking about here shortly. I tend to have a hesitancy to speak quickly. So if there are things that I'm saying that you would like more elaboration on, or you'd like me to slow down as I speak, please yell at me and I will do so. Also, throughout the presentations, I'll have sort of pause points for you guys where you can unmute and ask questions. You can also feel free to put your hands up at any point or put anything in the comments or the chat section, and I will read through those in those pause points to make sure all of your questions are addressed, and hopefully the rough section that we are talking about to make this easier for you guys. Are you able to see my screen? And is this big enough? If not, I can full screen it for you guys.
You could full screen? Sorry. If you could full screen it, that would be helpful.
Okay,
for
I can
those
do
of us
so.
with 4 eyes.
There we go. Is it same screen? You can see it bigger now? Thumbs up. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Claudia. See a thumbs up there. Okay. So first things first, as I move this bar out of the way so I can see. So the question is, why BNI Plus, right? So BNI Plus is a tool that we've created. It's actually a web page, to be specific. It is technology based. And the whole purpose of this is to make leadership teams and chapters' lives easier, right? So we know that there's a lot of work that goes into setting up the weekly chapter presentation, especially those that use aids like PowerPoint decks and AV in their chapter meetings. And so the point of this is really to reduce a lot of the stress and the weight that comes into that for those chapters. We also have made this a little bit more inclusive, so you can assign roles to other people in your chapter that can be responsible for certain subsections of it, but we'll dive into that a bit later. But some of the things that we're looking to address here is, have you ever been to a chapter meeting that didn't have an agenda, or they missed key agenda elements, right? I'm sure that really, it makes it really hard to have a controlling meeting if there's pieces that are getting missed, right? Also, have you received feedback from presidents that their weekly workload is too much, right? Or have you been to a chapter meeting where maybe they didn't recognize or announce that visitors were attending, so people didn't even know, right? All of those things are hopefully going to be solved in the new BNI Plus, as well as much more. So when we think about BNI Plus, I'm going to cover a little bit about what it is, then I'll do a quick summary. I'll do a really fast demo for you guys, and then I'll come back to this deck. We'll cover the rest of it, and then we'll finish off with the final actual walkthrough of the application, right? So, but what is BNI Plus? So it's an application that simplifies the planning, management, and delivery of your BNI meetings. And this is for a chapter leadership team, right? And it runs from a web browser on your desktop, tablet, or phone. As a leadership team in your chapter, you log in and you see a dashboard that summarizes all of the chapter information for you guys in a sort of convenient and summarizes all of the content required for your meeting. All right, so now, like I mentioned, I'm going to do a quick demo here of what it actually is. And so if you are a chapter leadership team, so the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, you're going to log in and you're going to see a page that looks something like this. Their objective is they're going to fill out all of these sections. So there will be no longer any red X's. Instead, there will be these green check marks. So then they'll be set for their meeting for that week. And then what they're actually going to do is they're going to launch, if they're a chapter that uses AV, so they use like the slide deck and stuff like that, they can launch with this presentation screen and these meeting controllers, and they can run their slides through this. If it's a chapter that does not use like a PowerPoint slide deck or anything like that, and it's just the president standing in front of the room speaking, they can still absolutely use this. They'll just come in here and use this meeting controller section, and it'll show them the script. So they can at least read the script while they're going through the meeting and standing in front of everybody else to make that meeting more consistent and to make sure that no elements are skipped. For the sake of me being able to show it on one screen, I'm going to hit this sort of test meeting, but you'll get the gist of what happens. And so as the president, they'll have a meeting controller that'll show all of this on the left side, and everybody else in the chapter on the present actual deck itself, we'll see this right side, right? And so the president will come through here and they'll click through all of these different options and it'll show all of the different things in your chapter, right? So there's an introduction, so you can introduce your visitors, you can introduce your leadership team and their members, right? You can introduce mentor coordinator, whoever you want to introduce for that week, you can do so here. We have the special announcements tab where you can talk about referrals and testimonials. Like all of the different things are available to here in your weekly presentation. You can come through here and you click all the different people and it shows all of their stuff on the slide. I think I've clicked it too quickly, so it's a bit delayed here. But basically, as a president, what they do is they're going to go through each of these sort of drop downs bit by bit, talk through all of the stuff, and then there's also the script available to them as well. So if they're not sure what to say in these sections, we have an entire script designated for them. So it makes it really easy for them to have the same weekly presentation, same deck, use the same script, say the same things, make sure they cover all of the points every single week, right? So this is the super fast demo, but I just wanted to show you guys how this works so that you could sort of have an idea of this as we talk about it further, right? I'm going to go back to my deck now. All right, so how does this help you at a regional level, right? And so what it does is it creates a consistent meeting experience using slides and a script that you guys create. So the script and the slides are owned at the regional level. We've got a default template that's there for everybody, but you guys can go in and put your own spin and flair on it, make sure the right meetings that you have are set up. And that, you know, if your region uses very specific their own slides or their own sort of scripting for different sections, you guys can go in and add that as well. So the templates and the defaults are managed at a regional level, and then they're automatically pushed to each of your chapters within your region. It also will automatically create slides for visitors and stuff like that once those visitors are entered, which is super helpful as well. You can also do the same thing for regional events. So as long on top of your regional calendar, there's a section in BNI Plus where you guys create regional events, and you can fill in all the information for it, days, times, when to meet, where it's at, all of that fun stuff is all included. And then that also automatically gets pushed down to the chapter level. So when the chapter level is talking about events, that even if they have chapter level events, they can also show the regional events there as well. And so something like, we have our global convention coming up in Hawaii. So you guys can add that in as a regional event. And then every chapter on a weekly basis will have the opportunity to click on that slide and show that the global convention is coming up, give it dates. You can put like a QR code on there so people can scan it, all of the different things that you'd need to sort of raise awareness for a global convention. You can also do the same thing for a national convention, whatever it may be. You can take care of that at a regional level. And then there's also a regional newsletter. So each chapter will have their own newsletter, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you guys at a region can have your own regional newsletter as well. And so you can either send that to every member of your region. You can also select certain subgroups too. So if you just wanted to go to leadership teams, if you just wanted to go to certain chapters, etc., you can do that as well. So you guys have a lot more options of who gets sent those, but you can do recognition in those. You can talk about your regional events, anything that's going to happen that you think should be relayed down to the chapter level. You can do that from this regional newsletter. Nola, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I was curious on the visitors slide. Is that going to be automatically loaded from visitor portal, or will somebody have to input that?
Yeah, so there is no connection currently to connect to BNI Plus. We're working on that. It's one of the bigger things that we're ticketing right now. But for this rollout purposes, no. We'll basically, the way that this is going to work is we'll do one big data upload for you guys for all of your regions. And so it'll bring in the most recent chapter roster, it'll bring in the most recent chapter list, etc. And that's a one-time thing. Everything else beyond that is going to be independent to BNI Plus only. So the chapters themselves will have to go in and load those visitor information in. But once they do so, it'll create the slides for them and stuff like that. In an ultimate world down the line, as we have this sort of figured out, we will connect everything like that. So it'll automatically maintain chapter rosters for you. It'll automatically bring in, the visitors from the visitor portal, etc. But for now, you have to manually add those in yourself. Same thing with chapter management. You'll have to go through, and if a member leaves, they'll have to go through and manually remove that person. If they add a member, they'll have to manually go in and add a member. But all of that is relatively simple. And I promise you, even with that aspect of it, the overall time that they'll be saving on this on a weekly overall basis is still way higher than what they do now with manually creating it anyway. So Cool. Looks like I've answered that question. So I'm going to move on. So now let's talk about what's the impact on chapters. So at a chapter level, they have consistent weekly meetings, right? So they'll use the agenda and the preset schedule to hit each point, make sure that they're saying the same things every week, just to create a better and more managed meeting week over week. It also reduces the workload on leadership teams, right? So we sort of talked about it already. There's the automatic creation of slides for visitors. They could also have add additional collaboration from other chapter members, right? I mentioned that they can assign different aspects of the weekly meeting to different members of their chapter. And then that person is then responsible for making sure that that section gets completed week over week. And so instead of just the president having to do all of it every week, all the different members of the team can also jump in, take subsections of it, take little chunks off of the plate of the president, and then they're responsible for that on a weekly basis. And then there's also a really cool for the featured speaker, which is honestly one of the biggest benefits at the chapter level, is that you can upload as a featured speaker, you can upload your deck and your bio in advance that you're presenting on. And then, so that's viewable to whoever's going to introduce you for the bio. So that's visible to them. And then as a featured speaker, either you or the president can actually control the deck. So from your own phone as the featured speaker, you can control your own slide deck as it's being presented to everybody else. So instead of saying next slide, next slide, next slide, you can actually do it yourself. If you don't want that, and you want the president to run it or whoever else is there, they can still do that as well. So the power can go to both people simultaneously, which is super neat as well. Kyle, I see your hands up.
Yes. So this works both. I have two questions. So this is
Please.
both for in-person and virtual, correct?
Correct. This is for everybody. Hybrid's included in that as well.
Okay. And then once this is up and running, do we get a copy of what you're showing us now so we can train our presidents and leadership on how to do this?
Yes. So the training of the presidents will actually still fall to us. So we're going to host a big training. We're going to send out the emails. We'll do all the marketing for it. You guys can also talk about it for sure, but you can direct people to the training that we will host and train all of the presidents on that. I think it's also going to be additional trainings that we're going to have during leadership transition so that we can retrain all the new presidents coming in on this as well. So we can take care of that. But also, yes, we will have different communications and stuff like that, including you guys that will also go to the coaches, etc. So we have an entire comms plan prepared for this to make lives for you guys easier, but B, to make sure the correct information is filtered out and distributed to the right people.
And last thing, when is this going live?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that on the later end, but I believe this should be going live towards the very end of July for you guys. So end of this month. Debbie?
Okay, so I'm confused about the featured speaker. What you're saying is that they can send their slides to whoever usually runs the slide deck.
Yep.
Via email, they can be uploaded to the slide deck, and then both people can advance those slides?
That's correct. Yeah.
Would the feature speaker have to log into BNI Plus?
Nope. So it's part of so the way that it works is you assign the featured speaker in BNI Plus. And then that week, that person gets an email that says, hey, upload your slide deck and upload your bio. And so they put in both of those. Once they upload the slide deck, they get an email that says, hey, this is being uploaded. We'll let you know it's completed. It could take, up to 10 minutes or whatever. So within 10 minutes, they'll get another email that says, hey, your deck was successfully uploaded or it failed. If it failed, you can just re-upload it. And then, but if it uploaded successfully, it says your deck was successfully uploaded. And then in that email as well, it says during your featured speaker presentation, click this link on your phone or at your iPad or whatever laptop, whatever device you bring, and it'll bring up a mini version of the slide deck, as well as there's a control bar on it. And so it's all included in that email. You don't have to log in or anything like that for this to work. And when the featured speaker is presenting, the president gets the option to either pass the power over to the member to control it on their phone, or they can do it from the actual presentation screen as well as the president.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's super neat. So for those that are more tech savvy and they want to run their own, they can do that. And for those that are like a little bit more hands off, they just want to stand up, walk around the room, talk while it's going on, or if it's a virtual chapter and they just rather speak and have somebody else host it, they can do it that way as well. So it gives the power to the people. Great. And so one of the questions I'm sure you guys have is you as a MD, what is it that you have to do, right? So the first thing that we're going to do, as I mentioned before, is we will upload all of the most recent chapter information for you guys automatically. So when you log in, we'll send you the login to your region or regions. If you have multiple, each region has their own login. So you'll have to remember the multiple, but the website saves it. So as soon as you enter it in the first time, username and password, it'll save your regions and you can just click which region you want to log into. But we'll send you that login. And then once you're there, all of your chapters, all of your members, everything like that, all of the roles that they have within the chapter, all of that good stuff from Connect will be uploaded for you. But in a case of security and to make sure people don't get anything in advance, we've turned off all of the notifications. So they won't get any emails from the system until you guys go in and enable those notifications, right? So I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit, but I just want to let you guys know you'll have to go in and enable all the notifications. The other thing you'll have to do is invite chapter leadership teams to use BNI Plus, right? There's a simple way that we'll do that, and I'll show you that button as well in the training. But you will be responsible to invite all of the leadership teams for your chapters to log in and use the application so they can set it up on a weekly basis, right? If you have like for all of your coaches and stuff like that, if they want to be heavily involved in this, each chapter has its own login. And so you guys can send in that as well. Unfortunately, this is probably the most cumbersome piece. There's not a great way for us to assign coaches to multiple chapters or anything like that. They have to log in as those chapters to see the same things. But you guys will have the ability to create the usernames and passwords for them and send that off to them. But right now, that's the best way for them to get access. And I can show you how to do that here in the call. And then finally, you guys should be reviewing these trainings, becoming experts. There's more trainings to this as well. And we'll be sharing those at the end. After this, in a follow-up email, you guys get all of the trainings that we've created, and I'll show you some of those as well. But, you know, we do sort of expect you guys to hopefully have at least a base level understanding of this, if not a little bit more advanced, because the way that we have the communications to flow is that if chapters have questions, they go to their coaches. If coaches have questions, they come to you, right? And so you guys should hopefully be a first line of defense for answering some generic questions that are coming up. And I'll show you how to answer those too, like how to change passwords, stuff like that, the standard things that'll come up. And then the final thing that we're going to ask you guys to do is just to talk about it, right? So raise awareness for BNI Plus, bring it to your chapters, show everybody how to use it. And just get people, you know, excited to use this. And I promise you, we talk a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen me for different trainings and things like that, but this is like an actual hit. Like Ron would say boom if he was here, right? So this is like one of the things that is saving tons of time for your chapter leadership teams, which we know is a problem point. So again, I see a couple questions and stuff here, so I'll pause. I'll go to, I see Sylvia's hand first.
Yeah, maybe you've covered this already, but for virtual chapters or hybrid chapters, it sounds like there might be two logins. The Zoom login, is this going to replace the Zoom link login?
No. So this is, so the Zoom link and everything like that to log in, that's to access your chapter meeting. And then this piece, BNI Plus, is once you're in there, this is how you share the deck. This is how you present the chapter meeting itself. So everybody else using a Zoom login, that's just to get to the meeting. This is what happens when the meeting is going on. Does that answer your question, Sylvia?
Got it. And so timing with rollout for like recently launched chapters, let's say in third quarter when we have new chapters launch, will we automatically have access, just like we request a Zoom link for the chapter? We'll also get a BNI Plus link, so it's two separate logins?
No. So as I mentioned, we'll do one big upload for you guys. So if you have a chapter that's launching, what you'll have to do is you'll have to go in and actually create that chapter and upload the member information yourselves. And to enable them to use BNI Plus. And it's just a one-time thing. And I promise you, it's not that long to do so. There's an import function. So you can import all of the member information, name, email, phone, all of that good stuff. And then it creates the chapter for them. And then once that's done, all they have to do is log into it. And so they'll just come to this website, bniplus.com, enter their username and password, and it'll log them in. So, and from there, they can host all their meetings and everything like that. It's relatively straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Matt?
Zach, you are the man. I miss you, brother.
Yeah.
The individual member slides.
Mhm.
A lot of our decks right now have built-in timers. Is that an option?
Absolutely. And
So
you can control how much time is on each one.
You are the
that's set
bomb.
at the chapter level. Yep.
That's the answer I was hoping for.
they all upload their picture and their logo and everything like that one time, and then that automatically gets carried over week as well. So once they upload their pictures and their logos, the slide deck is very easily managed for them. There's even buzzers and everything like that, like tons of settings that you can set, or if somebody goes over time, you name it. So all of that is still accessible compared to what was in the previous decks that they've been using. Ebony?
My question is, I think you said this already, but is this platform only for online chapters, or in-person chapters can also use this as well?
Yeah, so anybody can use it. I can't, to be honest, I can't sit here and upfront and say that I've been to every format of every chapter, but for the most part, they should all be able to use it. Again, if you're an in-person chapter and you still use like a slide deck that, you know, you have audio video set up and speakers, and you have like a slide deck up and everything like that, they can totally use it, all the way down to chapters that are you know, maybe a little bit less tech savvy, and that are just have a president standing at the front of the room talking. Even the president can still use it. They go in and they use what we call the meeting controller, the thing that selects the different options for them. And they can use that meeting controller, and they can review the script as well. And so they can make sure that they're saying the same things. It's also, because it's there in an agenda, they can make sure that they hit all of the points that you guys want them to talk about. So again, if you put a regional event in there, they may not be able to show it on a slide, but they can talk about it and they can read off of it and say, hey guys, just as a reminder, we have this big regional event coming up. You know, it's on X and Y date. You know, it's set up by our managing director, Ebony. She'll be there, blah, 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 right? So all of that information can still be sent down to the chapter level. It's probably easier if you have a slide deck and can show it all, but if you don't, at the very baseline minimum, they can at least read off the script.
Okay,
Tammy?
sounds good. And I'm guessing you would
Oh,
like
sorry, go
play
ahead.
it. I'm sorry, but I'm guessing you would play it through Zoom or whichever, like PowerPoint, correct? I'm just a visual person, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to visualize like what it
Yeah,
would look
so
like.
they would come to this website and they would log in, and then once, even if they're on their phone, when they log in, it actually prefers this little like sort of section over here, this deliver section. And what they would
Okay.
do is click on meeting controller, and then it would open the same window as we're seeing it here, and then they could go through. And I think the script is actually going to be showed on the side if I ask it to, but they can go through each of these
Nice.
and see all of the different stuff and say all the different things that are seen. Like the script is over here. So they can click on each one of these. If they want to introduce a full roster, they can do so here. You can see all of the different pieces are filled in. And so they can go through and do all of the things that they normally would, but instead of having to do it from memory or from a piece of paper, it's right here, and they can go sort of bit by bit, bar by bar, right? Does that make
Perfect.
sense?
Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's not through Zoom or anything like that. It's its own sort of web page browser that they would come to. Tammy?
I think I just saw it when you just showed that, but I was curious. We have sometimes where we'll have, like today, I just came from a visitor's day. So some days they do like a regular meeting, they do 60 seconds, but on a day where they have a bunch of visitors, they'll make it 30. Is that little clock on there to, they can change it week by week if they need to?
Yeah, so that's in the settings. They can come in here in these settings for their chapter specifically, and then they can set how long each one is. So your weekly presentation's a minute, your speaker presentation is 6 minutes, and your referral round is 30 seconds. And each of these are changed on a day-by-day basis,
Oh,
whatever
that's
you want it to be.
amazing. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. David?
So on the initial setup, can success coaches invite leadership teams, or that's only a managing director? Question one.
We'll give you guys the login at the regional level. And if you want to give that same regional level login to your coaches, they can do the same thing. I'll show you in a little bit, but it's literally 2 buttons, and it invites all of your leadership teams from all of your chapters onto the application. So once you do it once, maybe twice, it shouldn't be something that the coaches have to deal with on a consistent basis.
And when you do the big upload for the regional,
Yep.
it's going to create the slides for all the members, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Well, the slides are managed at your regional level. So you guys will create the template, and then each chapter within your region will all use the same slide deck and template. But we have a default in there for you guys. So you'll only have to make minor edits. It's not like you have to upload a whole new brand new slide deck yourselves.
Yeah, but the first time, all the members' slides are automatically created, correct?
That's right. They'll have to upload their profile and logo. Like I'll show you now, like,
So
go ahead.
who the member uploads their own logo and profile?
That's correct. So at the chapter level, they'll do this exact button right here. They'll request members to update their photos. I can't speak. They'll request their members to upload photos, and every single member of that chapter will receive an email that says, hey, upload your profile and your profile picture and your logo. Once they do that, it's automatically put into the slides, and that's week over week over week over week. You only have to do it once.
Okay, last question. We have some of the chapters that like to put videos
Mhm.
in their slide decks each week.
Yep.
That has the capability of that also?
Yep, you can upload videos as well. Even if you want your, and if you want your featured presentation, I can show you guys, I'm actually the presenter this week, but if you want it to be, you can either upload a presentation, and it can be any of these formats, but you can also upload a website as well. So if instead of doing a slide deck, you want to talk about your website, you can upload your website URL as well, and it'll work that way as well. So anything that you'd like to talk about in your featured speaker section, you can do so. All right, we'll answer the 2 questions I have left, and then we're going to move on. So conference room first.
Yeah, just a real quick question, Zach.
Mhm.
Do you have a features and benefits statement that we can share with all the leadership team?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that will be going out in the communications that we've already pre-created for you guys.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Debbie?
So all of these logins that we're gonna have,
Mhm.
we're supposed to keep track of all that?
That's correct.
So,
The only one that you really need to keep track of is the regional level one, because you guys can reset the passwords and change the logins and usernames for the rest of them yourselves. So as long as you log in at the regional level, that's the one login, username and password you need. The rest you can change really quickly.
so if a president leaves midterm with no notice, we can go in and change it so the incoming president can have access.
Correct. And that's actually at the chapter level, it's easier because up the region at the anything above the chapter level, it's managed by logins, but luckily at the chapter level, it's managed by people. So if you have a president that leaves, you just remove that person from being the president. And you can just assign president to somebody else. Like right now, I'm considered the president, but I won't move me. But so let's say Kendra is my vice president and Kendra is no longer with us. I can come in here and remove this vice president marker from her, and it'll say this person no longer has access. Do you want to keep letting them have it, or do you want to remove it? You just put remove it. You can also delete this person too if you want. And then you can go to the next person. Let's say Kenna becomes my new vice president. I just click on vice president right here. And then she automatically gets granted this BNI Plus access. You click save, and then it's going to send Kenna an email and say, hey, set up your BNI Plus account.
So
And she just
we need
says,
to
"Yep,"
remember
and
to
you're
do
good
this
go.
at every leadership team transition.
At the leadership team transition, there's an easier way to do it. We'll do it all in bulk, but on a week by week basis, like let's say it happens if it happens tomorrow, you'll have to go in and manually do that for now. But during transition, I believe there's an easier way that we do that, where you just mark that your transition's coming up and what day, and the chapter can actually go in and promote all of the people themselves, and they click one button and it takes the power away from the old, gives it to the new that week.
I'm laughing because you think our chapter members are going to do that.
Well, it shows up here on the homepage. You can do it yourself, but the option's available to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna continue. So we're gonna go back to the slide deck here. Okay, so we've answered what you guys have to do. So we've talked about this a little bit. So we've created step-by-step instructions for every single piece so all of those drop downs, all of those tabs, everything like that for the members. We've created step-by-step instructions. We've got videos, recordings, you name it. All of that's done at a national, regional, and chapter level. So you guys will get shared the regional level stuff. So you'll see all the trainings we've made at the regional level, but it'll also go down to the chapter level as well. So you can see all of those trainings. And again, that will be sent out to you guys. And then also BNI Plus has a built-in help section, and I'll show you guys that as well. So that can be the first step of defense. If anybody has any questions, they go to the help section and it should answer any questions that they have there, or between that and the trainings that we've created, right? So here's some important notes for you guys. It's currently available in English and Canadian French, but I think most of our regions are going to be predominantly English-based. And so the application itself, or using BNI Plus, is strongly recommended, but it is not required. So if there's a chapter that doesn't want to use it, they're more than welcome to not, but we really urge them to do so, especially because of how much time it saves your chapter leadership teams, right? We talked about this a little bit too. If you have chapters with audio and video, right, they'll likely need 2 devices to run the meeting. So the first one will be to share the slide deck, and the second one will be that meeting controller. They can do so if it's the president can pull up his phone and his computer, or they can even have it where like the vice president will log in and show the presentation screen, and the president can log in on their computer and show the meeting controller. Basically, you just need 2 devices to do this. There's other, I think in the past, what chapters have done is they bought like an iPad for the chapter, and that iPad just becomes the presentation screen iPad where they plug it in, show it on the screen, and then whatever the president wants to host it on, whether it's a phone, their own computer, etc., they can do so that way as well. But hopefully in all of your meetings, there's at least 2 computers in the room, and you can just log in and use it that way. It's really not that complex. And we talked about this as well. So if you have a chapter that doesn't have AV, which is audio and video, they can still benefit, right? So the president can log in and use the meeting controller and the script to run a successful meeting. Obviously, this is, you know, as you guys are MDs and you sort of experienced this, but this is provided at no cost to the members. We're also providing this to franchise regions as well, so they also get it at no cost. But the other sort of final note is that we really heavily leverage traditional civil innovation. As you guys can see, this is still very new, and we're making lots of improvements to it. We actually have a designated BNI team for this on our sort of development side. And so the state that it's in right now is not the permanent state that it will be in. We are making tons of improvements and changes every single day to make this more user-friendly to the chapters, but also to be more effective for you guys, right? So we're looking at changing the login process where you can do it by person. So your coaches automatically get assigned their chapters rather than having to get like individual logins, etc. Things like that to make it easier, both to run and as a member, as well as for you guys as a leadership team, right? All right. So one of the big things we talked about earlier was timelines. So obviously we're doing the training for you guys today on the 2nd. The first communication to go out to the members will be next week. We've already got that pre-drafted and created. And as we send emails to the members, and by members, I mean leadership teams specifically, in the case of this email, and that email is basically going to say, hey, we have this big training for you guys, register for it. This will go up on all of your regional calendars, but you guys will also be CC'd on these emails. So you'll get all of these as well. So it won't be a blindside for you guys. Then we'll be training for the members, the leadership teams again, specifically here, the week of the 4th week of July, sorry, not 4th of July, but the 4th week of July. So almost the last week. And so that training will have everything for the leadership team to know, to log in, to use it the first time, and to be successful. And then when we talk about who can use it, James Cooper, with the hat on, your region gets to use it first. And so it's really 1 week in advance. So you guys get it the last week of July. And that primarily is because this will be the first time we bring this application to the US, and we just want to make sure that the servers and everything like that function properly. And then for the rest of you guys, you get to use it the first week of August, so that following week. So there's really no major delay between when James can use it and for you guys. So you can all really communicate and start using it that first week of August. And we don't expect for it to be a big dump of everybody starting to use it immediately. You know, it can be sort of that gradual transition. You guys as managing directors can sort of pick which chapters. If you want to start off small and use a couple of them, you can do so. Again, you get to turn on the notifications and invite the presidents to use it. So it's really at your power and your discretion of how you want to roll this out. Meisner conference room, I see your hand up first.
Yeah, quick question. Sounds like we're rolling out training last week of July for the existing leadership team. Are we going to do it again for the new leadership team?
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, so new leadership teams coming in the transition will also set up new trainings for them in that transition period. So it's not part of like the member handbook or anything like that. But as you guys know, there's tons of trainings that go on in that time frame, and we will have multiple of them for this. Debbie?
So I am really excited to roll this out. I think it's going to be huge for a lot of reasons. I'm excited to get my CSEs trained. Will they be going to the training for the members that first week? Okay, so they go to the same training.
Correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, they go to the same training that we have for the members as well, because they're mostly going to be dealing with the member side, whereas this training that I'm having for you guys is at the regional level, which you guys deal with predominantly. So everybody goes to the right training for the skills that they'll need.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Nola?
Yeah, are we going to be talking about this on the core team call this afternoon from 4 to 5:30? So our CSCs won't be blindsided.
I am not aware of it, nor do I have any information on it.
No.
My guess is it's probably a no then, Nola. But I will say again, we in the email comms plan that we have created, CSCs have set emails that they will receive. So they'll get one in advance, probably the same week as the leadership teams, to say, hey, there's this training coming up for these leadership teams to start using this. Here's what you guys need to know. You're welcome to register for the training, et cetera, et cetera. So they're definitely not left in the dark, and they will be informed well in advance of when BNI Plus will be launching for you guys in your regions. Meisner, do you guys have another question, or is your hand still up? We'll move on to Matt while they're figuring it out.
Just asking the
we
question.
go.
I'm asking the question that Jim threw in the chat. Is when can we get this in Spanish? Because I think that's going to be needed more than the French, probably.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I don't have an exact answer for it. I know that there's translation obviously built into the application itself, but we don't have anything translated in Spanish yet. If you want it translated into Spanish, and that would be helpful for you, send me an email directly. I'll put my email in the chat if you don't have it already. Send me an email directly, and we can work on that for you. Basically, there's set words in the application that have to be translated. Once those are translated, everything gets uploaded, and then you've reviewed the slide deck to make sure all the words in that got translated as well. Once those are both translated, then we can push the language. So whether we work with you on that, or maybe you have somebody that you'd like to sort of relay that off to, but we can work on getting it translated to Spanish for you. But I would say it's likely going to be a couple, it's not like tomorrow we can turn that on. It'll be a little bit of development on that as well. Anna, you see your hands up?
So when we first started hearing rumors about this, we needed to keep it kind of hush. So is that kind of what we need to continue doing with our CSCs and just wait for your communication?
No, based on the fact that we're getting this out at the end of July and August, I would say you should be shouting it from the rooftops as much as possible.
Perfect.
Because we
Thank
want
you.
chapters to be excited about it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. No sense in hiding it now. Okay. Now it's on to a live demo. So I know we did a quick one, but this one is going to be more for you guys at a regional level. So we'll talk through all of the stuff that you guys have at the region side to work through. And then if there's time left, we'll have more questions, obviously, but I can show you some of the chapter side as well if we have time left. So for you guys logging in, once you get your login, it'll look something like this. So this is the default regional test page, right? So you can see here, I'm on my training region. You will see all of your chapters that are meeting on sort of this day, or you can even click on this week. But I recommend just going to the full chapter list in the region dropdown and then click chapters. And here you'll see all of your chapters for your region. Step one for you guys as you're doing that, right, is to make sure after we do the big upload for you guys, that you verify all of your chapters are here, right? If you have 16 chapters in your region and there's only 14 chapters here, please reach out to us immediately because we'll find those two for you. Also, if for some reason the inverse is happening and you've got 14 chapters in your region and 18 chapters are showing up here, also please let us know about that as well. So we want to make sure only your chapters are in your regions, right? Clearly you can see by size here, that's how many members you have in your chapter. We have two sort of empty test ones here, but we have my big actual training chapter and how many members I have in that. You guys can spot check that here as well. So if you know your chapter has, this one should have around 30, this one should have around 15. This is something you guys work with consistently. Just make sure that these numbers are right? Because we're going to do a big upload for you. And the last thing you want is that your chapters to log in and these to be incorrect. So that's that. And then, so what we'll talk about now is all of these fun things. So we're going to go through the settings first. These are all, again, going to be defaulted for you, but you go in and make the changes yourself. So it should default to English. You can also put the day that your year ends, and that's calendar year, right? Obviously, this should be December 31st rather than January 1st. And so you can also show any days that your chapters are closed for whatever reason. So this would be days that your chapters don't meet. So like you want to put Thanksgiving in here, Christmas, etc., things like that to prevent chapters from meeting on those days. And it just helps your region maintain that. Time zones are also the same thing. And for all of these options, by the way, you can select multiples. So if your region covers multiple time zones, again, you can put in multiple time zones here. If you only have one, you can just put in one, right? This is one I'll talk about here sort of specifically in these meeting settings is the number of open categories. And so what this is you can put a limit to the amount of open categories that your chapter can enter in and type in. And so if for some reason you want to limit how many open categories the chapter has, you can type in a number here and it'll limit that for them. And that shows up in there, how many they can type in, how many get shown on the slides, how many get put out in the newsletter, etc. If you want this to be uncapped and they want to put in as many as they want, just leave this at 0 and it will not put a cap on them. The other things is these meeting options. All of these are little radio bubbles, right? And you click which ones your chapter wants and which ones your chapters don't want. The thing I'll say about all of these settings is these are managed at a regional level, but they can be turned off at the chapter level if that chapter doesn't use it. So say one of these, let's say, recognizing top performers, right? Let's say half your chapters do it and half your chapters don't. You should still enable it for those chapters that do. And the chapters that don't use it can then come in and turn that setting off for themselves. But if you do not enable it at the regional level, the chapter cannot go in and turn it on. So if you're not sure or you want to, half and half or whatever, it's way better to turn it on here at the regional level and the chapter can manually turn it off themselves. Where if you don't turn it on at the regional level, the chapter has no option, right? It's not enabled for them. So that's one thing I would make sure, and just walk through all of these, click through them. Again, if you have any questions, the help section is this big question mark in the top corner. You click on it, and then you can search through all the different things, one of which is going to be the fact that you can read what all of these meeting options do if you're not sure. And then the last two things on here is the social media channels. So you can come in here, put all of your social medias in. I think there's like 6 to 8 options. You can put all of them in, and then those show up on like your regional newsletters. They show up when chapters look for them, etc. All that's here. And then finally, if you need to change your username and password for your logins, you can do so here. I see your question, Miser. Let me finish my thought. Anytime you do any sort of even looking at any of these settings, change anything at all, you always need to scroll to the bottom in BNI Plus and click Save. If you do not click Save and you move on to the next thing, it does not make any progress. So you have to click Save at the bottom of the page for all of the settings to save. All right, Miser, your question?
So Zach, with the open categories, is that something publicly, like on the regional page, if a person looked at a chapter, can they see those? What's the purpose of the open categories? Is it just for the membership report?
Yeah, it's for the members, but it also goes in the newsletter. So like as the newsletter gets sent out for all of the members, they can see those open spots, but visitors also will receive that newsletter. So when a visitor comes and attends the chapter, their email gets added in, they receive the newsletter at the end, and so they can see the open categories. Your chapters can change which ones are displayed. So like I think there's 3 that are quote unquote starred every week. And you can change which ones those starred ones are, things like that. At the regional level in your newsletter, you can also highlight a couple of those as well. Realistically, I would say you shouldn't cap it, but I know that there's been people in the past that are like, if you show too many, it looks bad. So they wanted to have an opportunity to cap it. But in reality, I think you should probably just leave it at 0. That's my suggestion.
Okay, second question. With that newsletter, if a visitor comes once, or let's say they're not really a visitor, they're a member, and they're getting this newsletter, can they opt out? Is it a one-time, or is it every single time you're now forever on this list of newsletters?
You can opt out for sure. Yeah. So I think when the visitor receives it the first time, they can choose to continue to get them, or if they only get them the once. And also at the bottom, there's also always the opportunity to unsubscribe if you don't want it. But as a member, also the chapter chooses if these go out, so it's not automatic. Somebody has to log in, fill in the information, and click send on it in the chapter. So if nobody sends them ever, then they'll never go out, right? But if your chapter does send them every week, it's actually full of a lot of really helpful information. One of the other things we talked about this in 2.0 is that it sort of tracks that ask of the week. The newsletter also has a very similar feature where every member can go in and manually add their own, what they're looking for that week, and those get added to the newsletter. So things like that are really helpful, that are just automatically included in the newsletter itself. So we recommend that the newsletter goes out every week, but you have the choice of whether you receive it or not, both at the member and the visitor level. Debbie?
Zach, I'm so sorry. I am like the question monkey today.
No worries.
And you might have already mentioned this and I missed it, but when we have multiple connect regions, are we going to have them all on one, or do we have to go in separately for each one?
Yeah. So if you have multiple regions to connect, you'll have a different login for each region.
Okay. Thank you.
Again, eventually we're trying to solve that where you log in under your own credentials and it pulls all your regions up for you, but that's not the case the way the website's built now. So you'll have a different login for each of your regions.
And no big deal. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. And it saves the credentials for you. So the username is like, region name admin. So you just click on which region you want. It saves your password and it sends you in immediately. It's pretty easy. It's basically like selecting you from the drop down.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go into the contacts. So this is the contact screen. I got a region and contacts. And so this is important for you guys to assign all of your coaches to each of the regions or to each of their chapters. So you come in here, you put in all of your coaches and all of your, if you guys are regional, as managing directors, you can put yourselves in, et cetera, all of that. And then you assign each of these to the chapters. And that way you will get the newsletters that they send out. They can also, when you guys come into your chapter and you let's say you take over the featured speaker spot that week, if you're assigned to them as from the chapter screen, they can actually select you for the featured speaker. And so your name and picture will show up when you go in and automatically, right? They don't have to add that to their slide deck, things like that. So it's really important that you put all of the folks in for all of the chapters and then you assign them to those chapters. And the assigning part's pretty easy as well. Once you're in the chapter, you click on them, and then you just assign who all is what role here in this screen so they can receive all of the communications and stuff like that that comes out of it. So it's super important that you put in these contacts. The roles screen is a pretty simple drop down. So this shows your whole region and who's assigned to what role. Just as a sort of a quick viewpoint here. So you can see how many presidents you have assigned in the application, how many vice presidents, just different things like that. So if you want to send an email and you're like, I want to make sure that, let's say you want to send out the newsletter and you want to send it only to your growth coordinators, but you come in here and you see that nobody's assigned to the title growth coordinator, it's not going to go to anybody, right? So you want to make sure you pick one of these that has the right people in it. This is also just another simple spot test for you guys. When we upload all of the information in there to say, hey, I got 30 chapters, but I only see 26 people assigned as president. I need to go in and make sure that I find those other 4 and assign them to the president. So that's how that works. It's just a quick one there. Key values for you guys. This is all the raw numbers, I would say, that goes into the application. If it's grayed out, it's because it's managed at the country level. For you guys, really, the only thing you should worry about is this application fee and then this participant fee, which is basically the membership fee, and making sure those numbers are correct, because these are going to show up in the automatic template, in the script that your leadership teams read off. And so when they're talking about adding new members, you want to make sure that your fee, application fee and your membership fee are the same. And I know the question you're all going to have quickly is, what if my region has multiple different fees? Well, then that's really tough because this goes to all of the chapters in your region. If that's the case, I would probably argue if you have a lot of different variable fees, I would say you just leave it blank. If not, I would put whatever your standard is, and then you speak to those presidents directly to let them know that theirs has changed. And all of the scripts have a spot where you can put your own edits in, your own little notes. And so those chapters and those presidents can go in and put a note in that says their costs are different to the standard that they're reading. These don't show up on a slide deck. These show up in for them to actively read off a script. So as long as they have their own note about that, then they should be able to say the correct price. And then obviously all of these, like I said, the gray ones are national, and then the venue fee also, the chapters can set these. So if there's a venue fee and a venue fee period, those get set at the chapter level. So those can be shown on slides as well. And the final one I'll talk about before I give you another break is this is the events section for regions. So again, you can come in here and you can create a new test event, if I can spell, and you can say, it's going to be July 4th, 2024. We're going to have a big cookout, blah, 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 right? You can do all of this. You can put pictures on here, and then you can say who's it coming from. So for me, as the managing director here, I'll say I created this. And then once you save it, it shows up here, and you can see you can disable it, which hides it, or you can delete it. So as long as it's not disabled or deleted, it will show up in the chapters automatically. So this will have these notes, and they'll show up on a slide automatically for all of your chapters to see. All right, Jim, I see your question. Your hands up.
Since it doesn't yet push or seamlessly transition through to BNI Connect, the best course of action is to create a regional event and from there push it into this BNI Plus, right?
Correct. Yeah, you should create it on your regional calendar, but you'd also push it here. So the reason you would push it here, in my opinion, is because you want them to talk about it in their weekly chapter meeting. And so if you put it in here, when they're going through and clicking all the buttons, they'll see the slide that says regional events. They'll click on it. And then as the president's reading it off, they'll say, by the way, just a reminder, our region is having this July 4th event, that our wonderful managing director, Zach, submitted for us. It's going to be at this location at this time. This is the cost, blah, 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 blah. You put all that information in and they just talk about it. And it makes it really easy in that one space for them. If you have multiple, you can add multiple in here and they'll all show up, right? And the cool thing, the reason we have this disabled is because if you have, like I mentioned this before, like you have global convention, right? You can put that in. You don't talk about global convention year round. You only talk about it, the months leading up to it. So while it's the months that you want to talk about it, you just undisable it, make sure you update it to have all the right notes in there. Everybody can talk about it. And then once global conventions happened, you just come in here, click the disabled. It saves it for you guys at the regional level, but it no longer shows up at the chapter level. So they don't have to talk about it anymore until, again, that time rolls around and you're like, oh, we want to start talking about global convention again. Come in here, undisable it. It shows up again in all the chapters. So it makes it really easy for you guys to manage those. So one-offs, I would recommend deleting, but things that you're going to, like on an annualized basis, you just leave them disabled when you're not talking about them and then enable them when you want to. Conference room.
So in reference, I know you said put them twice, one instance connect and plus do not talk to each other. Do you recommend putting the link to connect in plus? And are they able to click on that from the newsletter and register immediately?
No, because I don't think this slide deck gets sent out. So the only thing you could put in here is I think you can put a QR code, but really this is just a notification that gets read out in the chapter.
Oh.
So I would put it in Connect, and then the note that you put here just says, hey, if you want to register for this event, you can do so through Connect, and then the members know to do it from there.
I have a question too, Zach.
Go
So
for
sorry, I don't know where my stuff now. So when you upload the picture, so this is creating for the events, is it creating a template? Is there a template that's already in place? Or
Yes.
if, let's say that the chapter or whoever does their own flyer, can it do that without this kind of writing on top of it?
So
Like,
they can create their own slide if they want, but this is just automatic for them. So like we've made this now at the regional level. Let me log into my chapter and I can show you. So, oops. Now at the chapter level, I can come in here and it creates one automatically for me. If I knew which section it was in, that'd probably be helpful.
Probably special announcements.
Thank you. Yeah, so now a regional events list. And so it'll show up like, here's the 4th of July, here's this test, and then each one can specific event details. You show now this regional event, right? So it's got the details, it says when it is, I put that as a cookout, date, who submitted it, blah, blah, blah. So they can show at a list view, right? If there's multiple of them, or they can show specific events again. And this is all the information you put. So if there's a picture, it would show up here, all that fun stuff. Again, they don't have to click on each of these if they want, so they can come in here and they can create their own slide if they want and put it in with a, pretty picture that they've created. And they can totally do that. You guys also can create slides at a regional level that automatically push on all the chapters. So instead of creating an event like this and you wanted to make a pretty slide, you could do so, put it in this section, and then it's automatically viewable to all of the regions as well. So, or to all of your chapters in your region as well. Again, if you have multiple regions, you'll have to go in there and put it for each of those regions. But it's still a better way to get to all of the chapters rather than just sending it in an email format.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to move on now to, I'm going to show you guys the things that I talked about before. So these are like the standardized things that you guys will see on a consistent basis. So once it lets me log in, perfect. So to enable notifications, oh shoot, I should have picked a different region. To enable notifications, you're going to get, you'll all log into a region and it'll have, we'll just do this one, something like this. And so all of these that have this little ding notification, it says all notifications are turned off. all of your chapters will have this when you first log in, right? Because we don't want to be sending them anything unless you guys say so. And so once they have this notification to enable that, you log in, and it's going to be this big warning at the top. And if you don't turn them off, your chapter leadership teams can also do the same thing. So once you invite them on, they'll get to this main page, right? Because this is logged in as the chapter. They can go in here, change all of these things, but it's basically in the settings. They come into their settings, and the top option right here is disable all notifications. So they would turn that off, and then the chapter can start receiving notifications again. So that's how that would work. And then for you guys to invite your leadership teams, it's also very simple. There's a big button once you logged in at your regional level. Right here under admin, it says this chapter access summary. And so all of your chapters are here, and you can even view all of the information here. So if their name is black, it means that they have an account. If their name is red, it means that they do not have an account. And another cool thing when you come in here later, once this has been used, is if they have a black name, after that, once they've logged in, you can see their most recent login. So it'll actually put the day and time that their most recent login was. So you can see if they used it last week or if it was 3 weeks ago they logged in, etc. But for you guys to invite them all to use it, you would come in here, select all the chapters that you want to receive it, and then you would click this email chapters to set up BNI Plus account. And then these three, the leadership team, vice president, president, and secretary treasurer, will all log in. I'll get an email that says, hey, log in and get your BNI Plus access. So it makes it really easy for you guys. You just select the chapters that you want to start, and then they'll automatically get it. And you can come in here and do this multiple times. So if a chapter says they didn't get it or whatever, you can come in here, reselect it, and resend them an email, right? So it makes that process pretty simple for them. So those were the main things that we said we'd have to ask you guys to do. So again, you want to make sure that you invite your chapters to use it, and we'll put all this in an email to you afterwards, and then to make sure they turn off their notifications. The other thing that I'll show you here finally, and then I'll leave it all up to questions for the last couple of minutes, is I will show you how to reset a password and provide BNI Plus access. So now I'm logged in as a chapter, right? This is my chapter. I go to the members, and if somebody needs, we'll just pick a different person. So Owen, for example. If Owen needs BNI Plus access for whatever reason, you can log into, you click on Owen, you come down here and you give him this little button, BNI Plus access. And then when you save, it'll say, we're going to send him an email giving him BNI Plus access. So it's really that simple. And they would see the entire thing at that point, right? If they need to reset a password, you can do that from this same box. So Owen says, I need my password reset, log into Owen, you click this email reset password. And if for some reason the email reset password doesn't work, you can click this set password and manually put one in for them and then send them that update. But realistically, we think you guys should all use this email reset password link first because it's safer and secure. And that way they can set their own password and you're not involved in that process, right? So that's how that works for the password resets and providing access. So if anybody has any questions, go to the person in this bottom left, all of it's managed right there. So that was the last thing I wanted to cover. I'm going to quickly open chat here as well. But I will see any other questions that you guys
One more
had.
question for you. Do
Please.
we have a product demonstration video for this yet?
So it's this recording I'll send out to all of you guys as well. All of the pieces that I've talked about in this video, I have chunked into about 8-minute videos or so. And I'll send all of those around as well. So if you don't have the full hour to sit down and watch it, just the demonstration portions of this I've broken up and re-recorded as well. So all of those I'll send out as well. So you guys will have all of that. So all of those trainings are there, as well as each of these buttons has their own slide deck training format as well that you guys
Anything
can use.
more like a marketing piece, not a tutorial.
Oh, we have like an intro video, like a generate hype quick 1 minute thing, but I don't have anything other than that created. But we can work on that for you, Martin.
I think that might help.
Yeah.
For
If
all
you
of
send
us
me
with that,
a couple of
with
the
the
different
rollout.
things that you want, or I guess I can come up with ideas that I want in it. I'll work with you on that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Zach.
And I see your hand up next.
With the recording, are you able to send us any of these slides that we can use for our huddles on Monday?
Yeah, I can send you the
Okay.
deck as well.
Cool, thank you.
Yep. Kyle? You're on mute.
Yes. With these recordings, is it appropriate to share it with our coaches?
Yeah, you can share these with your coaches if you'd like.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, talk to your DOFO first, Kyle.
Yeah, talk to your DOFO, and if your DOFO says yes, then you can share it with your coaches.
Okay, thank you very much for the feedback.
Absolutely. Matt, go ahead.
Thinking way outside the box here for those of us, since Brooke brought it up, she was at a mega meeting. Are we able to create like a mega meeting slide deck where you can
Absolutely.
combine chapters?
Absolutely. So the way that would work, I think there's a way for you to combine the chapters themselves. I'm still in a chapter. Let me go to a region and I can show you. The way that would work is you would just set up a chapter in your region that you would make, manually by yourself. And then what you would do is, yes, I want to log in out of it. And you would just create a new chapter. So you go to chapters, new, and then what you do is you select this little box down here that allows you to have duplicate emails. So the reason when you set up a chapter, you don't want this is because each chapter can only have one email login, but because you're making this for an already existing member, you turn this checkbox off and you create a chapter that way, and it'll show up something like this. And then what you can do is you can just import all of the people that you want in it. So for this mega meeting, you just put their names, etc., and all of that transfers over, and you've created a mega meeting now.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you're done with it, you can just delete the chapter. So it's pretty simple. Or you can just call it like a mega meeting chapter if you want in here. And then every time you just update the mega meeting in the slide. But it's going to run off the same template slide deck and stuff like that. But you can make adjustments, again, just in that chapter's deck itself. So you don't have to recreate the wheel every time. Yep. Perfect. Any other questions, or hopefully I solved
Zach,
most of this
one
for
more
you guys.
question.
Please, Martin.
When you create these template decks, can you share them to other regions, other managing directors, so on and so forth?
That's a good question. There's no easy way to do it, Martin. You could create one. We have a template region created, and you guys use it when you start. But if you duplicate from another region, you take that region's power away. So then, let's say I made one and you wanted to use it, Martin, I could share mine with you, but then you no longer get access to edit it. It would only be me now having the power to edit it.
Is that maybe something we could add to the future?
Yeah, that's already something we have
list?
on the backlog, like something that we can do, or we can share the decks and stuff like
Share
that
the
between
template.
chapters and regions. But right now, that's not something that we can.
Good stuff. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be nice to make one mega meeting template and then share it to all the MDs, wouldn't it? Okay. Cool beans. And so for all of you, I shared my email in the chat earlier. If you don't have it already, you can just email me your Teams me or whatever. If you have any other questions beyond that, need help with anything that goes on with BNI Plus, or you want to get a little more familiar with it, please reach out to me directly, and I'm more than happy to help you guys. Perfect. With that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thanks so much, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Absolutely.
I don't think we have anything else. Any of the other DOFOs, just make sure that your teams are on for the core call today. Try to get them there a couple minutes early so we could start right at 4 o'clock Eastern, but otherwise, have a good day.